3, 2, and 1. Christopher Jackson, Ruben Polai. This is SHB Unfiltered, the podcast, episode number
33. I had to think about that one. 33 today.
33. That means we're still podcasting. That's what it means.
We're still here every day.
I think I've used this line many times, but it never gets tiresome. We are the only podcast featuring people who Stutter, streaming live every single day on Facebook mostly when it works, but today YouTube. We are the only podcast featuring people who Stutter, taking Q&A, putting ourselves in the limelight, on the road, in range of enemy fire, whatever you want to call it. We put ourselves on the spot and we challenge ourselves every single day, but we absolutely love it, which is why we're here, Chris, right?
Yeah, exactly that. We put ourselves out there. We put ourselves on the spot. We're available for anything. Comment, any questions,
anything,
and as well any criticisms. So
definitely
we're open to everything.
I'm still trying to get my head around the fact that we've been doing this every day for 33 days, because it feels like we've been doing this a lot longer than that, especially when I re-watch and re-edit some of the audio from the earlier days. And when I say earlier days, it was only a few weeks ago, isn't it? It's mad. Yeah,
it is crazy to think. Every day. There hasn't been one day that we haven't turned up to do this.
No.
Not one. You know, people can think of any excuse that they can't do it. Can't do it because of this, can't do it because of that. No. Okay, we may have committed to a 6:15 time every day and we haven't met the time, but we still come every day. We still show.
It is 6:50 if that counts.
Yeah.
Counts, but...
And also, it will be streamed live, regardless of the platform. Yes, we usually do it on Facebook. Today, we're having technical issues. Well, I don't even know if it's a technical issue on our part. It's just...
Technical, mate. Technical.
Right?
Technical issue is a technical issue.
Yeah.
Whoever's fault it is.
Yes.
Quickly, want to say thank you to the really prompt people who just said hi in comments. So Pedro Pena from My Stuttering Life, our friend from across the pond, and someone I need to get in contact with again because we spoke briefly last year, but we need to continue the conversation. So Pedro, I will be hitting you up. And Mr. Amraz Khan, who I haven't heard from in I don't know how long. So I hope you're doing well, brother. I hope you're doing well. CJ, how was your day?
Today was good, man. Today was good. Quite chilled. Had a lot of work stuff to get through. Couple of HMRC issues, couple of general work queries that I had to deal with, which was good. I managed to do it. I had my task list set out, made sure I ticked every task off of that list today. And it's a very satisfying feeling when you tick off that last task that's on the list. So yeah, today's been a good day. What about you, Ruben? Today's
been fairly good for the most part. I've been really busy with work. Been, I wouldn't say ambushed, but thrown quite a few kind of ad hoc phone calls from different people. It's been a busy period because of what's going on in the world right now, and that's kind of affecting us as well in maybe a good way, kind of, but it does mean we are busy. The other highlight of my day was for the first time in a long time, I did a morning warm-up call with Adesanya, and we've actually come up with an exercise that me and him are gonna do consistently every day as well. So I will share details about that at some point in the podcast.
What's going on here? I feel really left out about this.
You got his phone number. Why are you having a go at me?
No, because
you get time with me every day for an hour, and I only give him 10 minutes, and you still feel that FOMO. You still feel left out of the picture.
Yeah, I'm getting jealous that you're creating new exercises that I'm not a part of and have no knowledge of.
It's nothing revolutionary. Trust me, mate. Trust me.
Nah, just joking, man.
Yeah, but we've actually we committed to doing a call every day, and what we're doing is we are together. We take 2 or 3 sentences each, and we are reading "Redefining Stuttering" by John Harrison together, and that's what we're going. That's what we are going to do now for the next few months until we're finished.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's quite cool because you get to when you're reading out loud, you're going through every word, and then when someone else is doing it as well, you get a break, so you can actually listen to the words from someone else that you know. And even when we're reading it, A was just like, wow, I forgot about this line. My God, I remember when I read this the first time, this had an impact on me and stuff like that. So that was really, really cool. And we're going to carry that on because I feel like I have developed the skill of consistency over this lockdown period. And thanks to the podcast and I guess the two of us pushing each other.
Yeah, that's it. Consistency, like we've always said, is the key to success. And commitment is key.
Definitely. Well, this actually is a good segue then into the talking topic of today. I say topic, but we could tailor off or go into different types of tangents. But I'll find a way to somehow bring it back around. Don't worry, Chris. I'll always come in and save the day. Always come in and save the day. But today, key talking topic is essentially you can reach the top or reach top target or some kind of peak or the peak of what you've been trying to achieve. So you've worked on your speech or worked on your business or worked on your athletic career, worked on so many things. Now you've reached the top. What's next? How do you replicate? How do you stay there? And even if you can't stay there, how do you stay in the mix? How do you stay nearby there? Maybe it's not realistic to be number one for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. But it's not a bad effort to be top 3, top 2, always pushing. So yeah, doing a kickoff, and we'll see where this ends up. I'll have my coffee.
This is going to be an interesting discussion because this is a very interesting topic that you've raised here. For me, looking at sports, I've always been heavily into sport. I like my basketball, massive interest into football. And what you learn is that it's a lot harder to stay at the top than actually getting to the top. It's a lot harder to stay at the top. You look at teams that will win the league. How many teams have been able to defend it back to back? How many teams have been able to win back-to-back NBA championships? How many times do you see a boxer become world champion and lose their first defense fight? Andy Ruiz, for me, is a perfect example of that. You know, he managed to knock out Anthony Joshua. Yes, we can question Anthony Joshua's performance and his preparation going into that fight, but he became heavyweight world champion like against all odds, and he completely got so complacent that his defense on that fight was a joke. His performance was an actual joke. His preparation for his defense was terrible, and it is a classic example of how not to happen. And when we come to working on our speech, I see it in exactly the same way. I see it as people can make quite a lot of progress quite quickly. And when I say quickly, I'm not talking overnight. I'm talking in the space of a few months. So you can have a long lifetime of struggling, and then within a few months, you can literally change your whole belief system.
And that's a short period of time for people listening on. It isn't a long amount of time, because you know how quickly weeks go by.
Yeah.
2 or 3 months is not long at all compared
Yeah.
to the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That is noted, but it is long in comparison to what is promised out there. 3-day courses and crash courses and weekends. You know, so when people are expecting to change their life over a 3-day course, but then realize it's actually going to take you 4, 5, 6 months, their mindset kind of shifts, and it's like, oh, well, that's not what I expected. I thought it'd be quicker than that. So yeah, either way you want to look at it. But what I'm saying is, over a period of time, you begin to fall off. You begin to get complacent. You can begin to get complacent. That's not the case for everyone, but you can begin to get complacent. And what usually has to happen is you have to start doing the things again that got you to the top. And a lot of people reach the top, they can act a certain way, create this persona, and then when they're starting to fall off, a degree of embarrassment sets in. And it becomes demoralizing to start looking back at what you implemented in the very early stages and think, oh, I have to do that again now. I have to go all the way back. But unfortunately, yes, you do. If you look at the most elite athletes in the world, they have that underdog student mentality. Look how hard Cristiano Ronaldo works still. And I don't even know how old he is. How old is he? 34?
No, he's older now. He's 35, 36. So he's 2 years older than Messi, actually.
Yeah.
2 years older.
And look how hard he still works. And he's won everything there is to win. If you look at basketball players like LeBron James, the guy spends $1 million a year on his body every year. You know, he has that student of the game mentality. He's always trying to improve, always trying to learn, always implementing the basics, the small things. And that's what we should be doing with our speech all the time, to keep ourselves at a level.
I've got a question for you, but isn't much of a proper question, but more of a trigger for a talking point. How would you kind of analyze Sir Alex Ferguson's ability to stay at the top? The way he formed teams, knew when it was time to get rid of people and rebuild, and then come back after that dip in the mid-2000s. Did you get that?
Yeah. How would I analyze that?
Yeah, and what can you learn from his approach? Because you got to bear in mind, this guy was managing in the 80s, and did he fall behind? Did he get dated? Did he get stuck in the old ways? What did he do, or like what can you learn from his actions?
Well, I think he was always trying to learn people's personality types. He was always trying to learn how to work with different type of players. And what I liked about him personally, from a managerial point of view, is that he made everybody know he is the leader there. No one is bigger than the club. No one is going to be dictating anything to him. So everyone was always looking to him to learn and taking everything that he said on board. But what was good about him is that he was able to adapt. Football changes over the years. Different formations, different style of plays. Players evolve. They get different attributes that players didn't have. So continuously learning the game and continuing to study the natural progression of the game, staying ahead of the curve, I think was key for him. And it was key for him to know what what type of team and what type of talent and what type of personalities he needed on the pitch and what would work well together in order to be successful. Like you pointed out, he did have a dip. He did have a blip. He did have a blip. Blips do happen. You don't get things right all the time. So you have to be able to be self-aware of that, be able to self-analyze, not get too demoralized and start again from the basics and rebuild again. And I think that's what we can take from that, that even the greatest fall, but it's how they respond and how they decide to pick themselves back up and continue to want to learn again and take it all the way back. I mean, what do you think the main thing we can learn from Alex Ferguson's time at Manchester United? Because if you remember his early years, I think it was the first year, his job was actually, I think he was about to lose the job in the first year.
Yeah, that's what the story says, but he managed to win the FA Cup. I think he beat Palace in the final in that year. But aside from that, the reason why I brought him up is sometimes we can think of football players staying at the top as too simplistic. Ronaldo just works hard every day. Yes, it isn't as simple as that, but it can be simplified in the minds of someone who isn't familiar with the person, the sport. LeBron James surrounds himself with PTs, cryo chambers, all this kind of stuff, just throws around the cash everywhere and just stays at the top just by sitting there and people tell him what to eat, etc. The reason why I brought up Alex Ferguson is because essentially he can only control everything in the week, but that 90 minutes on the weekend where everything is on the line, he does not have control over that period. And he's had to do it over 3 decades, spanning changes with the money in the game, TV, the way the ownership structures change. When all the new money came in, first the Russians, then the Arabs, and he's had to adapt in that period. Why do you think Wenger dipped and second half of his tenure was rubbish in the grand scheme of things, whereas he was revolutionary in the first half?
I think you have to keep the hunger also.
Wenger was hungry, but the game moved on.
Yeah, and
the game moved on.
Move on with it.
Yeah, because they built the Emirates, so they planned it purely for Arsenal to be a financial superpower in 10 years' time. But then 1 year later, who turned up? Abramovich. 1 minute. I ran out of battery in my light. I'm going to turn on the backup one.
It might be a moment, guys. Thanks to everyone watching on YouTube.
I had a feeling that would happen at some point. My charger broke. So, yeah, it's a bit annoying. Let me try to make a few adjustments. Keep talking about something, Chris. Right. Go on, Chris.
Has anyone got anything to add on the YouTube feed about what we can learn from people like Alex Ferguson? For me, someone like Alex Ferguson, you have to realize when you're a manager of a football team or you're a coach of a basketball team, you are the person that has to motivate everyone. You have to be the self-starter. You have to be the one that pushes yourself and you're not relying on anybody else. Like you were pointing out, Ruben, pointed out, people like LeBron James, people like Cristiano Ronaldo, they can invest in other people to push them. They can invest in people saying, right, this is what you're eating for breakfast, this is what you're eating for lunch, this is what you're eating for dinner. Your training program at the moment is this, this, and this, and this. Cars will pick them up, take them to training. But for someone like Alex Ferguson, he has to be the self-starter. He has to motivate. He has to find what his long-term motivation is for wanting to do this. Yes, you can say winning is the motivation, but once you've won and you've achieved it, what is the motivation to keep on winning, to keep staying at the top? And that's something that Alex Ferguson had. He had that wanting to continue to be the best and continue to learn about all aspects of the game. And that's right the way through, from players, tactics, skill set, all the way down to how to run the club. I also heard that he was a great leader in the training ground. He knew everybody's name. He knew the cook's name. He knew everybody loved him, and he was able to bring that team together. And all these different aspects we can relate and transfer into working on our speech. What is your long-term motivation? What is going to make you become that self-starter? What's going to make you pick yourself back up again when you're having a tough time with your speech? Because inevitably it will happen. It will happen. And it's up to you to determine how long that blip lasts for and how you're going to respond.
I'm on mute, obviously, but thank you very much, Chris. And just got a comment from Pedro, My Stuttering Life, saying you have to set the example. I've got another comment from Jet Sex saying, WTF is this? And SHB replies with, it's a podcast for a stuttering charity. And Jet Sex replies with, exactly. So I think Jet understands what's happening. So we're going to carry on. And apologies for the issue with the lighting. I'm back. So as Chris was saying, he picked out a few points there about Sir Alex Ferguson's ability to adapt through the years. Now, one thing that was important was he understood when to let go of things and when to move things on, where the players or coaches or methods of training, different types of things. He understood when was the best time to actually to move things on. In the same way, we can relate to that as well, right? We've been part of certain speaking groups in the past, and for that period, they were great to me. That period of my time, I gained a lot, I gave a lot, but there comes a point where you reach kind of a period where, okay, so am I progressing here, or are things improving, or am I staying still, going backwards? Then I made the assessment, all right, it's time to shake things up a bit, take what I've learned, move on from there, go into different forums to push myself with speaking, and just keep on doing that. Because if you stay too long in the same place, sometimes, yes, it's comfortable, but what happens in comfort zones, Chris?
You get comfortable if you do not push your comfort zones. And when you push your comfort zones, you grow. Oh, we've lost him again. Once you push your comfort zones, you grow.
Exactly. Sorry, Chris, had to plug in my charger. It's all happening today, isn't it? It's all happening today. So unorganized. Sorry, dude.
It's all going off for you today.
It's all going off. It's pun intended with the light. What I think as well, it's, so if you are a leader of group or a team or an organization, understanding that you yourself, yes, you could be at the peak or the edge of your field or what you're doing, but you may have a drop in performance. Now, do you think that your team will respect you if they identify it but see that you aren't taking action? Or will you enhance your value if you actually take action and understand that, hang on a minute, I need to do something because I'm not performing at my best? And is that more powerful?
Yeah, a lot more powerful. You will get the respect because you're leading by example. People need to see, okay, what happens to me when I have trouble, when I have a blip. People need to know that, okay, I'm watching this person have a bad performance, but how is he going to bounce back? That's how I have to bounce back, because it's only a matter of time before you have a bad performance. In football, that's why you have a captain. That captain's supposed to lead by example. That captain's supposed to be the experienced one. That captain's supposed to lead by example and motivate everyone. But when it comes to working on your speech, everyone has to be their own captain. In my opinion, everyone has to be their own captain. But also what I like about Alex Ferguson is he didn't allow himself to be dependent on anyone. Anyone in his squad, he didn't care the celebrity profile, what they were about, how big of a player they were to the club. If you wasn't fitting in with his philosophy or his plan, you are out the door, mate. He does not care. And that's what we have to do. Anything that's not fitting into us working on our speech and making that progress, you are out the door. Dismiss it, because that's only going to hold you back from growing.
Definitely. I saw something a while back, and this was an interview that Dan Pena did. And one of the things he said was, make a list of what you want to achieve, maybe in the next few months, maybe in the next year. I'm not sure about timeline, but just make a specific list. Now make a list of the people you spoke to in the past week. Now try to connect if these people are helping you reach those goals. And maybe they are people you have to speak to, but then put a time next to those people, or a fraction. How much time are you spending with them, and are they pushing you towards your goals?
Yeah, that comes back to that common thing about you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it makes a difference, because yes, you could have these like great plans and stuff like that and really kick things off. But to continue it and to make it long lasting, to get that consistency, you need the right people, the right group to actually keep your goals, your dreams going forward. That's so important. And that's why I think that with SHB, we have that amongst ourselves, but we also have the wider community who are reaching out and offering to help.
Bless you, Ruben.
Thank you very much, Chris. Had to go on mute. I have a very, very loud and pronounced sneeze. I don't hold back when I sneeze, so I had to go on mute. Now's a good time to direct attention to the comments. We have a mix of things. So we have first JetSkex saying, here we go. So I guess JetSex is enjoying the podcast. Thank you very much, Mr. Sex. And Pedro says, it's important to step out of your comfort zone. Once you do that, you realize you can do things that you never thought you could do before.
Yeah.
And Pedro also believes in vision boards. So he is constantly reminded of his goals. And I don't have a board yet. It's something I will be doing when we work out what to do with the rest of the walls. As it's a new place, but I have lists of things that I read through a few times a week. I should do it a lot more often, just to keep reminding myself, this is the plan, this is the plan. One thing we did kind of start here is Ranjo is writing a book right now. So she started it a few weeks ago. And I got her to put different kind of parts of the story onto Post-it notes as she thinks of them. Because when you're starting, you don't really have a proper order of events and where characters fit. I can't really turn it around now, but if you look at the wall in front of me, it's just covered in Post-it notes with blue tack and different chapters, different parts of the book, different characters. side characters who they're interacting with. So it's a constant reminder to actually work on it. And it's massive help. So when it's out, we'll see. I'll give you a copy, Chris. If it's
I look
good.
forward to that.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Cool. Go on.
Sorry. No, I was going to add that with vision boards, I remember before I started working on my speech, I thought that vision boards were complete nonsense. I thought, what are the point of it? You're just going to put a load of stuff on a board. But when I started to work on my speech, and AO made me create a vision board. He came to my place of work. We created a vision board. He helped me make the vision board. And I cannot stress to you how much that helped me throughout my journey. I remember that we moved offices. So we moved from that office to the other. And I didn't put my vision board up. And it was crazy how over a period of time, when you're not getting that constant reminder, I started to slack with my speech a little bit. Because you're not getting that constant reminder, why are you working on this? Why are you doing this? What are your goals? What are your aspirations in life? What are you trying to improve, or what are you trying to achieve in business? Why do you want good speech? Why do you want to keep control of your speech? And when you don't have that constant reminder every day, when you're having a bad day, you haven't got something visual there to pick you back up. And that's what I was lacking for potentially 3 or 4 months. And once I put it back up, things really started to change for me, because it was like whenever something bad happened at work or you were stressed out, you look at the board and you're like, okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm working towards. So I used to think they were nonsense, but I've realized they are so important. They're so useful, and I will always have a vision board. And it's important for people to realize that vision boards change. You can adapt them, you can change them, you can put new things on them all the time. But as long as you know you're working towards something, that is key for motivation, especially.
Thank you very much, Chris. I used to do something similar like that when I was in school, actually, but it wasn't really with goals and stuff like that. I used to put diagrams that I needed to memorize for science and for mathematics and formulas, etc. I used to stick them on the ceiling. So when I woke up, it was the first thing I saw. And if I was just lying in bed as well, I could see them and just have a read and just keep processing. Got a comment from Leo saying, wow, thanks, Chris. I've had my vision board in my closet after visiting the UK. I hope it means close to him or as opposed to closet, because if it's in the closet, Leo, then it isn't any good. Closet.
Yeah, in the closet.
Oh wow, yeah, he said it's in his closet.
Nah, get that out of the closet.
Get it out. And thank you for Pedro for his valid points. Now we've got a really specific question, but very relatable one from Amrez, who says, what should you do if you're in a position where you have a job? Give me a second, I need to reread that. So you've gone back to university and you're back at the starting position of your speech and starting the cycle again with interviews and jobs. What should you do? Now, Chris, before you answer this, I'm going to say one thing, right? One thing. You will never, ever, ever be back at the very, very start, because you already have more knowledge, experience, and more belief than you would have at the very, very start. So regardless of what you sound like, you are already a few steps ahead. So it's impossible to actually go back to square one, because you have the knowledge and the achievements behind you. All right, Chris, smash this one out of the park. 3, 2, 1, go.
I would say the most important thing is to think back. So you're telling me that you've come back to your original cycle of speech, which I'm assuming means that you've gone backwards and your speech is not great or where you want it to be or where it has been. The best advice I could give is you need to think back and remember what you were implementing at the beginning of your journey that got you to the point where you were enjoying good controlled speech. What were the small things? Everything. What were those? You need to be doing those things again. You have to go all the way back to basics. I think you need to listen to Ayo's post that he posted today. And I think that will give a lot of inspiration to a lot of people that feel like their speech has gone backwards. I think the key thing here is to remove all ego, remove all thoughts of it being demoralizing, to go all the way back to basics. But you're not going to go on any sort of course or any program that is going to teach you anything new at the stage that you are at. You know what you need to do. You're more than capable of self-coaching. It's just about accepting, removing all pride that you have to go right the way back to basics. And when I say back to basics, everything that you implemented. I'm not going to go into tools and techniques at the moment because you know what they are. But when I'm talking about being a lunatic on the phone, making as many phone calls as you can, all these different things that we do at the beginning of our journey, you have to start doing again, because you haven't lost belief in the technique, you've lost belief in your ability to execute it where it matters, because you haven't had those wins recently. So you need to get those small wins, take those incremental steps again to get to where you were. I'm sure you've got something to add to that, Ruben.
Yeah, just one line probably. So at the start of the podcast, you were talking about kind of athletes who are always working and they reach the pinnacle, they've won all these awards and cups and trophies, etc. Now, do you think that when they've done that and they get to training, do they then stop listening to instructions from their personal trainer who has not achieved anything compared to them, who is just some person who isn't famous or anything like that? Do they stop taking advice from that person and just say, I'm here, you are here, why should I actually listen to you?
Because they're the people that helped them take those steps to get to that level.
Exactly. And in the same way, if you don't replicate and actually go through the same process and do the same basics and seek out people who have that knowledge. If you can't push yourself, seek out people who can. Now, for some people, if they've reached a certain level and made all these achievements, it's a kick in the ball sometimes, isn't it? It affects your pride.
Yeah, massively.
Affects your pride.
Yeah. Another way I would put it is, if a footballer gets injured, is he coming back from injury and is he sprinting the way he used to sprint during his rehab? No, because he can't. Because if he does that, he's going to get injured again. It's like, if we take advantage of the situation and try and go for fluency when we've been struggling with our speech for a long time now, you're going to trip up again and again and again, and you're not going to be able to make that progress again. Like an injured footballer has to go through the basic steps of rehab. You know, there's footballers that will squat quite well, but they get injured and they have to just squat with the bar or with no weights, or, you know, And that can be demoralizing to a footballer. You know, they're at the height of their career, they're smashing it, they're top goal scorer in the league. How do you think Harry Kane feels when he comes back from injury and he pretty much has to learn how to run again, or when players tear their Achilles? This is the same thing for us, but we have to go through that rehab. And if we don't go through that rehab properly, we're going to get injured again. And it's the same thing with working on your speech.
Very, very, very powerful, Chris. Very, very powerful. And just want to take it back to the question at hand. You've got to think, what have you been doing at previous interviews that has worked for you? What did you do in the prep before then, in the weeks, the months before? And then look at yourself now and see what you need to do for that particular interview. Because after a certain amount of time, you know how you work. It's going to be hard to find someone who will push certain buttons in you, because you already understand this works for me, this doesn't work for me. If you've already been through speech programs, then you've already got an idea of what actually works for you. But it's just up to you to implement those things and really hone in. And don't be afraid to go back to basics. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid, because even asking for help, there's small things that could actually take you forward. Or chip away at any type of chip on your shoulder you have. Because I can tell you from experience, I've reached certain heights and certain levels of fluency only to be dealt a reality check. Now it was up to me to actually own up to it and face up to it, be open about it. That's the first step to move on. Because if you can't do that, then you will be preventing yourself from actually applying the principles that got you there in the first place. And you'll be on a slippery slope, really slippery slope. Be honest with yourself, be honest with the people around you, be honest with the interviewer and say, look, like, this is the deal. And just be straight up with them. And they will know, all right, so like someone who has stutter, they're going to expect something. And typically, when you disclose, they expect the worst. They expect the worst. So do not worry. Now, if the problem is like thinking about trying to get that job or get that position, understand that they are interviewing you for a reason. Now you have that ability to actually separate yourself from the rest of the candidates. Show them your personality, because stuttering in front of them will be a fast track into an insight of who you are as a person. They will actually be seeing your resilience, the ability to bounce back from failure, your ability to stay cool under pressure. People can make up all these random stories and come there, but you will physically be demonstrating it in that office, face to face with the interviewer. And that's what people don't realize. Other people don't realize that this is your opportunity to show your personality, your true personality. And that's what people need to realize. Trust me, when you work that out, doors open for you. I promise you that.
Yeah, 100%. That is powerful. That is powerful, because in job interviews, everyone gets asked questions and they can just tell the interviewer, yeah, I'm resilient. Yeah, I'm a good problem solver. Yeah, I can think on my feet. Yeah, I'm this. Yeah, I'm that. But they have no way to actually demonstrate it by just answering a question. Whereas you can use this to your advantage to say, yes, this is what I'm going through, but I'm still here. I'm working on it. My speech has been at a better level than this, but I'm getting it back to where it is because I'm continuing to put in the work. So you're clearly demonstrating to the interviewer that you take action, that you're not just all talk, that you do practice what you preach and you are a man of your word. And those are the type of traits and those are the type of qualities that someone interviewing you will look for and will appreciate.
100%. I love that, Chris. Just another side story. So I think I mentioned it earlier briefly in WhatsApp, Chris, but I read a bit more into it. So Jordan Peterson, people may be aware of him through his videos on YouTube, but that's how he became popularized. So he is a professor in psychology, world famous now. He became famous through YouTube because he started to post videos of the lectures he gave. He was doing that from about 2014, 15. Now he wrote a book that I read last year, The 12 Rules. Really, really good book. Very, very powerful. And it's just different ideas and concepts about kind of life and dealing with different things. And it makes you really open your eyes to things. And he's quite blunt. He's very, very blunt, and he divides opinion. He'll drop in things like, some people, some parents, they aren't qualified to be parents, and that is the honest truth. Sometimes he says there are some parents out there who aren't qualified to be parents, and he says kind of a few other profound things and a few other controversial things. Now he's an expert in psychology, like he is a leader in his field. But last year he admitted himself for help for his mental health, and he booked himself into a psychologist because he was having struggles. I can't remember the exact story, but I think his wife was having health problems, putting a lot of pressure on him, and he had to and to balance out, he was taking some medication to address some of the depression issues, but he became addicted to them. But he was smart enough to realize what was happening and actually take action and take off that pride and actually be open and say, look, I've got a problem, and do something about it. He's actually taking his own advice. I think that was powerful. It just shows if he can have mental health issues and kind of step up and put his hand up and say, I need help. And this guy's a leader in psychology. And any question about depression and all this kind of stuff, like, he will have answers. One of the things he said was the reason why people get depressed is because they aren't following their purpose. Because when you follow your purpose, it gives you a certain amount of positive feedback, which releases the right balance of hormones within your body, etc. And there's all types of things that he has talked about that I can go on about, but we will be talking for hours and hours. But the point is, this guy checked himself in. Now, if you aren't able to own up and actually check yourself in for a bit more help to address some communication issues that you are recently having, then look at him as an example. Because who are you to have that pride where he should be having a pride bigger than yours, much bigger. But he was humble enough to actually take that hit and take action to save his life. Now it's up to you to do the same thing. There should not be any excuse. If you have coaches, if you're part of some kind of program, you use that program. What's the point of having a lifetime support if you're too scared to actually speak to people? Then there's a bigger issue there, isn't there? There's a bigger problem there, and that's what you need to realize. Me, Chris?
Yeah, I can resonate with it, because what I would say is you always see people's first journey, documented everywhere, all over Facebook, all in every stuttering community group, singing from the rooftops, which is right. You should. That's really good. How many round 2 working on their speech documentaries have you seen posted on all these stuttering communities? I've only seen one, and that was my one. That's the only one I've ever seen. I was struggling with my speech around September, October last year. 1 year on from when I made the speech at UCL, Ruben. 1 year when I smashed it. Everyone was calling me, saying how amazing it was. Your speech is amazing, fantastic. Can't believe how far you've come. 1 year later, I'm struggling to the point that I need assistance. I need help. I need that push. And what I realized was that second round of working on my speech and being willing to document it, that gave me a different level of freedom. That gave me a different level of acceptance. That gave me a different level of desensitization. And not too many people want to go down that route. Too many people want to try and get away with it in their own life. They want to try and claw it back somehow without telling no one. Very difficult, because unless you're really self-aware and you've been in that position before and bounced back with help without documenting it, and that might be a third or fourth time, it's very difficult. So I don't think there's any shame in documenting that you're working on your speech more than once, that you've gone back to basics. It proves we're human, and it proves what we do works. It proves that it is long lasting if you implement it. So many people are like, oh, but does it work long term? Well, what does long term mean to you? What does that mean? Does that mean that you do it once and you never have to do it again? No, there's nothing in the world that works like that. There's no athlete that trains once and it will last for a 20-year career. So it's the same with us. It's exactly the same with us. And if you're comfortable to document your round 2 working on your speech journey, trust me, you won't care. You'll have a different level of desensitization, a different level of acceptance, and you'll enjoy it again. And you will go on that fun journey all over again, and you will be able to get back to where you were without having to hide, without having to act like you're something you're not to certain people in the stuttering community.
Well said, Chris. Well said. And I think, and that pretty much sums it up, right? It is a good summary of what we've talked about today, where A, achieving, B, reacting to dropping off, and C, what's your mentality? How much time are you giving yourself? If you're looking for a quick burst and leap, then, and if you act that way, then that's what you're going to get. If you want the longer lasting results, put in the longer lasting work. CJ, any final thoughts and parting words?
Yeah, just regardless of what stage you are at your journey, always appreciate that we're always vulnerable. We always need to put in the work. We need to be consistent with the work. And if you need to go back to basics, there's no shame in that at all. Remove your ego, remove your pride, and get back to basics, and let's start making progress again.
Cool. Thank you very much, Chris. That's it for episode 33. As you can see, Chris and I are still living without a haircut. So we'll see.
I need a haircut.
Dude, so. I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling. It may not look like it now, but it's just, we'll see what happens over the next few weeks as well, because I'm due. Trust me, I'm due. It's going to be an interesting, there's going to be queues. There's going to be queues. Everywhere there's going to be queues.
Can you book an appointment at your barber's?
Yeah. I'm actually friends with the guy now as well. So I met him through my manager at work, and he cuts hair across the road as well.
What, from work?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's perfect. So that's where I go for lunch breaks and stuff, or straight after work. And he actually gave me a free haircut before the wedding. So this is my present to you.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
yeah, he's a good guy. I really like him a lot. So Peter, if you're watching somewhere, I can't wait to see you again soon, because it's time. My hair grows fast as well. That's the problem. It does this thing where it grows faster on the sides. So as time goes on, it becomes more and more square.
Yeah.
Problem, man. Problems. Lockdown problems.
Your own hair, or
Sorry?
you even going to consider? Would you consider cutting your own hair?
I haven't done it in like a long time. So I did it before, like back in the day, but that was when I was doing like a kind of messy-ish look with the. Do you remember like a Beckham? He had that thing, that spiky, and then the kind of spiky back as well. So you can do it with that, because if it isn't even, then it's actually better, because it adds to the textured effect. I can actually chop hair, by the way.
No way.
Trust.
Nah.
Trust. You don't believe me, but I do. Back in the day, I used to cut my dad's hair, my brother's hair and stuff, and my friend's hair once, twice. So, but it's been some time now, because
I'm surprised you haven't made one of those Instagram tutorials. Right, this is how you cut your hair at home on your own.
it's wicked, man. Maybe one day. But CJ, I think it's time, dude. I think it's time. We have overstayed our welcome on YouTube.
Yep.
Episode 33 is done. Any last words before I call it a day?
Nope, no more last words. That's a wrap, as they say. That's
Cool.
it. Wrap it up.
And for me, just remember what we said. Whatever you do, whatever you achieve, don't hold back. And if things aren't going too well, don't worry, reassess, just bounce back. And that's all you can do. Just keep going. It's a journey. There's no destination. It's just an endless journey. And that's it, man. Chris, thank you very much. I'm going to put this one away. So everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. And remember, stop holding back.